Hi, welcome back. This session, session 3, we're going to talk about motivation and communication. If we look back at the tree and we're thinking about those roots of the tree again, your child needs motivation to communicate. They need that motivation, and we can build on that motivation to really support their communication. Some children are more motivated to communicate than others. Some children instinctively are motivated and instinctively know that another person can help them. They instinctively know that if they want something, they need to go and tell somebody. They need to go and get that adult to help them. And for these children, it's really spontaneous for them to involve another adult in their request to get what they want. But for some children, this isn't the case, and this is a bit less so. For some children, they may be more likely to go and get something themselves. And they're more likely to get cross if they can't get it themselves. For these children, who perhaps have always tried to be independent and always tried to get things by themselves, parents become really good at predicting what their children want. They're really good at predicting that their child will want a drink, and often give a child a drink before the child knows themselves that that's what they need. It may be that a parent always knows that when a child cries or when a child makes a sound, whatever, that the child wants something to eat. So we'll go and get them that biscuit so they can have a biscuit to eat. It's really important for parents to respond to their child's need. That's really important. But what's also really important is it's about timing. It's about timing and holding back just a little bit so that the child becomes motivated to communicate with you. If a child is having all their needs met before they even know what they want, then it means we miss an opportunity to communicate with them. And actually, that child then has no reason to communicate. And we're just reinforcing it, that actually if they make a cry or a certain noise or whatever it is, the child then realises that biscuit will just appear, or that glass of juice will just appear. The child has no reason to communicate. So they're more likely to kind of sit back and wait for snack to happen, or for their toy to arrive, or their hug to happen. So when we increase a child's motivation to communicate, by just adjusting our timings just a little bit, then we provide an opportunity for your child to practice communication so many times during the day. When we increase a child's motivation to communicate, you're providing the sunshine that helps a child grow. So we talked last time about pausing in a game, pausing within a really lovely interaction where the child is highly motivated. This way we're pausing and the child is then motivated to want to interact again. And so we're increasing the child's communication. But this could always happen with anything else too. Perhaps if your child needs a drink, or your child wants a biscuit, or your child wants another train from the box that they can't reach. Those are times the child needs help. So hold back at that point. Study and see, how is my child asking for that? If that child needs the train from the train box and they reach for it, take the child train from the box and model the word train. If your child reaches with their hand, like in this slide here, because they want their juice bottle from the table, take the juice bottle, model the word juice. Pause. Just that little pause, counting to 5, and wait and see what your child does. You can always model the word again, juice, and then give them the cup. But all you're doing is holding back and creating an opportunity for communication. There may be times in the day when perhaps your child needs help with something. So perhaps in the morning when your child is putting their shoes on, or perhaps your child is trying to put their coat on and struggling to do it. Instead of just jumping in and doing up their coat for them or putting their shoes on for them, pause and wait, see what happens. If you're sitting down next to your child at their level, what does the child do? Does your child take your hand? Does the child look at you as if to say, "Mummy, can you help me?" When they do that, model the words, "Mummy, help," because that's kind of what they're asking for. So all you're doing is modelling the language that fits with what they're asking for. But that's only going to happen if we pause. If we'd dived in and done their shoes up or put their coat on without them even needing to ask for help, we'd have missed another opportunity for communication. So these are just 5 seconds. That's all it takes, just to hold off and wait and pause. Model the language, mummy help. Perhaps your child wants to play in the garden. Perhaps your child goes over to the back door or the patio door and pulls on the handle to say, I want to go in the garden. Your child's communicating to you. Your child's communicating, I want to go outside. Go over to your child, get down to their level, so you're right at their level, and wait and pause and just see what they do. Does your child keep rattling at the door, or does your child then look at you? Does your child take your hand? If your child's doing that, that's your child saying, actually, Mum, I need your help. In that case, model mummy help or mummy open. So we've taken another example of a time when your child is basically telling you want to go outside. We could have just gone over and opened the door and let them out, but we would have missed a really lovely opportunity for shared attention and requesting. And an opportunity where the child is so motivated because their motivation is that they want to go outside. When we attempt to increase a child's motivation to communicate, we must be aware of their levels of frustration. What we can't do is push this too far. If we leave it too long, or we wait and wait for a child to say a word, then your child's going to get cross. And actually that's not what we want. We want the child to want to communicate. We want them to enjoy communication. So it's a really fine line. So the point is not to make your child frustrated, but it's to give them a reason to communication. So done really badly, this will be a child that's really frustrated and really cross. And therefore, you're going to lose their ability to communicate because they're just going to get cross. And that defeats the point of what we're doing. Done really well, the child and the adult responds quickly to the child's attempt. They notice their child's attempt to communicate. Even if it's a slight glance or a tugging at the door to say that's what they want. So the parent responds to it. The child responds to that child's communication. And then what we're doing is we're validating your child's nonverbal communication. We're validating that your child wants to go outside and play. We're recognising it. So we're reinforcing it with language and saying, Mummy help, outside, and then pausing. When we respond to a child's communication, a nonverbal communication, we're sort of saying, I understand you. When someone says, I understand you, it's a really powerful thing. Then the child starts to understand that their method of communication, this new method, this method that involves them initiating with you, this method that involves them taking your hand or looking at you, it means that we're accepting that they're communicating, and we're accepting that they're communicating with those around you. And then they'll be in the right place to learn, and you'll be able to move on and think, how can we really stretch this communication? How can we take it to the next step? But we can't do any of this until those tree roots are all really well established. So this can't happen overnight. This is one of those things that's going to take weeks. But it's little opportunities that you can take every day that help your child learn how to motivate themselves to communicate. Some parents say to us, if I keep responding to my child's nonverbal cues, the child won't talk. And that's not true. What we're doing is we're building on a child's already communication, and we're building on the way they communicate. So we're making their communication successful. So we're not going to stop them talking by doing any of this. But what we are doing is providing a name for something. So if a child points to something, then we say, oh, car. If a child points to their drink on the side, oh, drink. We're naming it for them. We're teaching a child new words for what they're doing. They're pointing and we're reinforcing it. And we're sharing that name with them. Studying your child's nonverbal communication will help you put the right words to what they want to say, and then modelling it for them. And we can only do that by holding back, and we've talked about that in sessions 1 and 2. But we need to show us how we can use words instead of gestures eventually to ask for things, because we're modelling those words as well at the same time. So we're providing a label for what your child's looking at. We're naming it, and we're looking at that. We're seeing what they're looking at. We're seeing the world from their point of view. What is it they're looking at? And then we're naming it. What we're not saying is, what is it? We don't need to ask what is it. If we do that, we're spending time teaching a child and quizzing a child. And often, in my experience, I have some children who are really good at saying what is it. And the reason being is they've heard what is it so many times. So say the word. Model the word that they're looking at. And don't worry about spending time teaching colours or numbers or letters or shapes. I know we want our child to learn those things, but what's really important is that we follow your child's lead and we follow their interests first. We don't demand speech. We're not making them talk. So what we mustn't do is say little things like, oh, Johnny, say car. Oh, Johnny, say trains. What we do is just model it. They're pointing, they're gesturing, or they're looking at something and we say, oh, train, car. That's fine. If they don't say it, that's fine too. They will. Just keep pausing and keep modelling the words. So we can do all these things in what we call special time. Maybe 5 minutes a day in a quiet place. TV's off, the radio's off, the phones are switched off, the iPad's in the cupboard. Just follow your child. Let them choose the activity. Be a tuned-in partner with no agenda. So remember, you're your child's favourite toy. Keep on playing and make it fun. Follow your child's lead, tune into them, and be the person your child is communicating with and playing with. Enjoy it. So hopefully you can take all the things we've learnt over these last 3 sessions and use them every day with your child. Thanks for listening.